It was June of 1973. The kind of southern heat that didn't just press against your skin, it wrapped around your bones. Doreen Hope Dempsey stood at a lonely roadside bus stop just outside Sumter, South Carolina. She held her daughter Robin's tiny hand and wiped the sweat from her forehead with the sleeve of her thin cotton dress. Robin, barely 2 years old, tugged at the hem of her mother's skirt, her big blue eyes blinking against the bright sun. In her other hand, she clutched a worn, stuffed rabbit, the kind that had been washed too many times but still carried comfort. Doreen was tired, not just from the heat or the pregnancy or the long bus ride. She was tired from life. At only 22, she had already been through more than most women twice her age. She was heading home, not because she wanted to, but because she had no other choice. The father of her unborn child had left. Her job had disappeared. She had tried, for as long as she could, to make it on her own. But there comes a point when survival demands surrender. Returning to her parents' house wasn't a triumph. It was an admission of defeat. But at least it was safe. The bus had dropped them off hours ago. She expected someone, maybe a cousin, maybe her stepfather, to meet her. But no one came. No phone booths nearby. No shade. The road stretched out in both directions, quiet and empty. Robin started to fuss. Doreen knelt beside her and pulled a juice box from the diaper bag. She forced a smile. "It's okay, baby. Just a little longer." Then, the sound of an engine. A car approached, slow and rattling like something coming apart. Doreen stood up quickly, brushing dirt off her dress as she turned toward the road. The vehicle stopped just a few feet away, kicking up dust that floated in the heat like smoke. The window rolled down. Donald Henry Gaskins leaned out, grinning. Everyone in town called him Pee-wee. He was small, odd-looking, with a twitchy kind of energy. He was the sort of man you remembered, but never missed. Doreen had seen him around. He knew her ex, maybe helped him fix a car once. They weren't friends, but he wasn't a stranger either. "Need a lift?" he asked. Doreen hesitated. She looked at Robin. The little girl had finished her juice and was now chewing on the straw, completely unaware. Doreen looked back at the road. No cars, no help. She didn't want to say yes. But she also didn't want to wait another 2 hours in the heat with a toddler and a growing stomach. So she nodded. He got out, popped the trunk, and helped with the suitcase. Doreen lifted Robin into the back seat, adjusted her seatbelt, and slid into the front. They started driving. The silence was awkward at first. Doreen tried to make light conversation, mentioned how hot it was, how fast the summer had come. Gaskins barely responded. His hands gripped the wheel tightly. His eyes darted occasionally toward the rearview mirror. But mostly, he just stared straight ahead. Doreen pointed when they passed a familiar sign. "You missed the turn," she said. "I know a shortcut," he replied. The pavement faded into gravel, the gravel into packed dirt. The road grew thinner, swallowed by tall trees on either side. Spanish moss hung from the branches like gray curtains. The light grew dimmer, cooler. Robin began to whimper. Doreen looked back. "It's okay, baby. We're almost there." But she wasn't sure anymore. She cleared her throat. "You sure this is the right way?" No answer. She tried again. "Donald?" Still nothing. She reached for the door handle. Locked. Her heart skipped. Something didn't feel right. The car slowed to a stop. "Get out," Gaskin said. "What?" "Out." Doreen looked at him. His jaw was tight, his eyes empty. "Donald, please. My parents live just..." "I said get out." He got out of the car, walked to the trunk, and opened it again. Doreen turned around and unbuckled Robin, cradling her tightly as she stepped outside. The air was thick, almost swamp-like. The only sounds were insects and the occasional drip of water from somewhere unseen. Then she saw the rope. Gaskins pulled it out slowly, not rushed, not panicked, calculated. "Donald," she said, taking a step back. "What are you doing? You ask too many questions." "I have a child," she pleaded, trying to keep her voice calm. "I'm pregnant. Please, just take us home." But he didn't. She backed up farther. Her feet slipped slightly in the soft mud. Robin began to cry. Doreen's voice cracked. "We won't tell anyone. I swear. No one even knows we got in your car." He didn't respond. She tried to run. He lunged. Robin screamed. Doreen fell hard onto her side, arms wrapped around her daughter. She kicked, fought, clawed, but it was useless. He was small, but he was vicious. He wrestled Robin from her grip. Doreen shrieked. She tried to stand, but he shoved her down again. In the distance, no help, no passing cars, no sounds of civilization, just woods and him. Her hands were pulled behind her, rope, tight, her face pressed into the dirt, and Robin, taken from her arms. She screamed her daughter's name, over and over, but no one heard. And the man walking into the trees with her baby in his arms never looked back. Doreen's scream echoed through the trees, but it didn't go far. The pine forest around her swallowed the sound whole, just like it swallowed the sun behind thick, moss-draped branches. She stumbled as she tried to regain her footing. Her arms yanked tightly behind her back with the coarse rope Gaskins had pulled from his trunk. Her breath was ragged, her chest rising and falling like a drumbeat of panic. Robin's cries faded farther into the trees as Gaskins carried her daughter deeper into the woods. "No, please, no!" she screamed again, her voice breaking. "Robin!" But all she could hear now were her own sobs and the muffled rustle of leaves. Her knees scraped against the forest floor as Gaskins dragged her behind a thick cluster of brush. The ground was soft and wet, almost sponge-like beneath her. A mosquito buzzed near her face. She flinched but couldn't swat it away. Her hands were bound tight, circulation already fading. "Shut up," Gaskins muttered behind her, his voice low but sharp. He forced her down on her side, then stepped away again, vanishing back toward the clearing. She turned her face to the side, dirt coating her cheek. Her eyes stung with sweat and tears. The forest seemed alive, buzzing, clicking, whispering. But it wasn't alive with help. It was alive with silence. Every second felt like an eternity. She couldn't see Robin, couldn't hear her anymore. Had she stopped crying? Had he? Doreen bit her lip until it bled. She rocked her body back and forth, trying to loosen the knot at her wrists. Her breath came in short gasps. She wasn't thinking anymore, just reacting. Then the rustling came back. Footsteps, leaves breaking beneath boots. And then, Gaskins appeared again, alone, no Robin. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. The question was too big to ask. He crouched down in front of her, breathing heavily but smiling. "She's quiet now," he said, wiping his hands on his jeans. Doreen started to scream again, a sound not just of fear, but of complete collapse. Something inside her fractured. He struck her across the face, hard. "I told you to shut up," she whimpered, her body curled into itself. She wanted to disappear, to be anywhere else, anywhere but here. But she was here, alone. Robin was gone. The rope dug deeper into her skin as he yanked her upright. He pulled her by the wrist toward a new clearing, one that sloped down to a murky pond. The surface was still, but the smell of rot lingered. Flies buzzed around the edges. Something floated near the bank. Maybe a log. Maybe something worse. He pushed her down onto the muddy slope. "You brought this on yourself," he said quietly, almost like a sermon. "You brought that little girl into my world, and you knew what kind of man I was." Doreen didn't move. She didn't speak. Something had left her eyes. He stood over her for a long time, watching. Then he turned away, walked a few paces, and began digging into the mud with his boots, making space, clearing ground. She didn't watch. She couldn't. She thought of Robin's curls, the little giggle she made when she was tickled, the way she'd clung to that rabbit at the bus stop. She could still smell her. And then, in that moment, she felt nothing at all. When he came back, blade in hand, there was no fight left in her. No pleading, no screaming, just silence. A surrender, not of weakness, but of hopelessness. And when it was over, the forest grew quiet again, like it never happened. The bodies were never found. No search parties arrived, no news alerts. Doreen and Robin vanished into that swamp like stones dropped in black water. And Gaskins? He walked away, back through the trees, back to the world, back to the face he wore in public. The man who offered rides, who fixed cars, who cracked jokes at gas stations. He buried more than just 2 bodies that day. He buried trust. He buried innocence. And he buried the truth, deep in the Carolina woods, where no one would think to dig, at least not yet. Later, he would tell investigators that Doreen knew too much, that she was going to tell people things she shouldn't. But it was never about that. It was never about what she said. It was about power. It was about control. It was about a man who believed truly that he could play God in the woods of South Carolina, and no one would ever stop him. And for years, he was right. Doreen and Robin didn't just die that day. They disappeared. The trees didn't speak. The swamp didn't tell. The water closed over them like a secret, one that would stay hidden for years. No one knew what had happened to Doreen Hope Dempsey and her baby girl Robin. No missing persons bulletin made headlines. No search teams combed the woods. No police sirens. No questions. Because no one expected them to vanish. Gaskins driving away, cigarette in hand. Calm face, radio static. He got back in his car and drove home. Just like that. No panic. No cover-up. No fear. Because Gaskins didn't need to worry. There were no witnesses. No one knew Doreen had gotten into his car. And the only soul who could speak, Robin, now lay beneath still, black water. Back in town, Doreen's family thought maybe she changed her mind, took off again. Maybe she was embarrassed. Maybe she didn't want to come home pregnant again, with another child from a man they disapproved of. They never imagined the truth, that she'd been just minutes away from safety, and never made it. Days turned to weeks, no sign of her. Some neighbors remembered seeing her. A few thought she'd left town. Others assumed she'd gone back to Florida. No one asked Gaskins. Why would they? He was just Pee-wee, the strange little man who worked on cars and told dirty jokes. Creepy, sure, but harmless. They didn't know what he'd done in those woods. Gaskins, he went on with his life like nothing had happened. He laughed with neighbors, went to work, even attended a funeral later that month, shaking hands, hugging people, smiling, all while knowing he had murdered a pregnant woman and a 2-year-old child, and left them to rot in the swamp behind his own backyard. He'd killed before. He would kill again. But this one was different. This wasn't a stranger on the highway or a hitchhiker in the dark. This was a woman who had trusted him, a child who had smiled at him. And he got away with it, for years. Doreen's name faded. Robin's memory faded. They became ghosts, a missing page in a long, brutal story. And the swamp? It kept their secret, until he told the truth himself. Now let's finish with the final chapter. Gaskin's confession and the legacy of the Dempsey case. Years passed. Donald Henry Gaskins kept killing. In alleys, in fields, even inside prison walls. His hands were always busy. His stories always changing. But eventually, the walls began to close in. In 1975, he was arrested and sentenced to life for multiple murders. But even behind bars, he couldn't stop. He murdered again, this time with a bomb smuggled inside a radio, killing a fellow inmate on death row. That's when the world finally realized this wasn't a man. This was a monster. Investigators began digging deeper. And for once, Gaskins wanted to talk. You want to hear it? All of it? Fine. But you better sit down. I done things you ain't never imagined. He bragged. He laughed. He detailed killings like they were bedtime stories, each more twisted than the last. But one story stopped the room cold. Doreen and Robin. She was expecting a baby with a black man, he said. She shouldn't have brought that mess back here. She brought her little girl, too. Pretty thing. Blonde curls. She smiled at me. He paused. I couldn't stop myself. That sentence alone was enough to haunt every detective in the room. He described the rope, the swamp, the screams, and the silence after. He told it without shame, without remorse. He said he killed them because it had to be done. Because they were a liability, because they didn't matter. But someone else did remember. Gaskin's daughter. Years later, in a documentary interview, she confirmed what he'd told her in private. He admitted it to me, she said. Said he couldn't help himself around that little girl. He knew it was wrong. He just didn't care. In 1991, Gaskins was executed by electric chair at Central Correctional Institution in Columbia, South Carolina. He had murdered at least 13 people, possibly more. But many believe Doreen and Robin were his most haunting victims, because they weren't just bodies on the highway. They were people, family. They trusted him, and he buried them in silence. To this day, no grave has been found, no bones, no final goodbye. Their story exists only in his words, and in the unbearable silence that swallowed them. Doreen never made it home. Robin never learned to say goodbye. But maybe now, maybe through stories like this, they're not forgotten. Maybe their names echo louder than his ever will. The Dempsey case became more than just another crime in Gaskin's list. It became a symbol of how evil can hide in everyday life, how people can use trust to harm others, and how innocent lives suffer when society ignores warning signs. After Gaskins was executed, things started to change in South Carolina. The case made people talk about how missing persons cases were handled, especially when it came to women and children. Doreen and Robin's story helped push for change. Detective Ray Henderson, who had spoken to Gaskins many times, could never forget how the killer's eyes lit up when he talked about Robin. In 1994, 3 years after the execution, Henderson started the Dempsey Foundation. It was a non-profit organization focused on helping find missing people in rural South Carolina. Doreen and Robin didn't have to die without anyone knowing, Henderson said during the Foundation's first press event. They didn't have to vanish without a trace. If we had better systems, if we had asked the right questions, if we had cared more, maybe they would still be alive. The Foundation trained police to act faster in missing person cases. They created a team of volunteers who could help within hours. They also built a system to track patterns, hoping to spot the next Gaskins before he could hurt someone. But more than anything, they made sure people didn't forget. Every June, on the day Doreen and Robin went missing, the foundation holds a memorial at the Sumter County Courthouse. Families of missing people come, police attend, local leaders speak, and someone always reads their names aloud. Doreen Hope Dempsey, 22 years old, pregnant, just trying to come home. Robin Dempsey, 2 years old, blonde curls, holding her stuffed bunny. The memorial is both a tribute and a warning. It reminds people that dangerous people don't always look scary. Sometimes they seem like kind neighbors. Sometimes they offer help when you need it most. Gaskins was right about one thing. The swamp kept their secret, but he was wrong about something else. He thought they would be forgotten. But instead, they became unforgettable. Their stories spread beyond South Carolina. Podcasters, filmmakers, and writers shared it. Each version added more to their legacy, more voices speaking out from the darkness. And maybe, deep in those Carolina woods, where moss hangs like gray curtains and the water is still and dark, their spirits finally found peace. Not because of the justice system that failed them, not because of the people who ignored them, but because now they are remembered. Their names are spoken. Their story lights the way, warning others, helping others, saving others. Doreen and Robin Dempsey didn't just disappear into the swamp in 1973, they became legends, and legends don't die.